bit about the county's very full to-do list for 2022. And then we're going to give you an update about the process that we're going through to create the Arapahoe County Health Department that will replace the Tri-County Health Department toward the end of this year. Just to let you know how this is going to work, if you are joining us on the phone and you want to ask a question to the commissioner, you can dial *3 and that'll put you through to an operator. If you're watching online on Facebook or on our webpage, you can just plug a question into the comments box. And once we complete our brief slide presentation, we will get to those questions and open it up to discussion. And with that, I would just like to introduce Commissioner Bill Holen.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. After a very productive 2021, the Board of County Commissioners has an even longer to-do list this year. In addition to the Health Department planning that we'll discuss later. Next slide, please. Let's start with a look ahead to what we're planning to do in 2022. First, I want to extend a thank you for the passing of the ballot measure that permanently extended the open space sales and use tax, which will enable us to maintain, expand, and improve our range of open space assets and amenities. In addition to the continuing to run these operations, we'll have also execute various programs across all departments, including aid to agencies, our Youth Awards program, National Adoption Days, CSU Extension, Registered Apprentice Program, Workforce Development, and many others. We'll begin the process by reframing of the 18th Judicial District, which will be completed by 2025 and will require a new DA to be elected in 2024. We'll complete the allocations of a one-time federal ARPA funding, which will help us support vulnerable populations, area businesses, nonprofits, while also partially replacing some county revenue that was lost due to the pandemic. We'll refine and expand our programs and regional partnerships around combating homelessness, addiction, suicide, domestic violence prevention. We'll determine how best to use the funds we'll receive from last year's opioid settlement. Next slide, please. We'll further implement the board's strategic plan, which focuses on safety, health, welfare, increased engagement with our communities and partners, including how to best address the county's aging infrastructure. We'll execute the next phase of our transportation master plan and open space master plan, both of which set comprehensive visions and goals for the respective departments well into the future. We'll oversee the primary election in June and the general election in November. We'll run the 2022 County Fair on the heels of last year's record-breaking event. We'll manage the commissioners' redistricting process, which will alter the borders of some commissioners' districts and which must be completed by September 2023. And we'll advocate for the county's interests at the state legislature. And now let's move to our main topic, the health department creation process. Next slide, please. Right now, we're in the early stages of planning where we're redefining and prioritizing the service that the current health department and the new health department will be doing. The county has contracted with Autonomy Group to serve as our public health subject matter experts, and we're partnering with Tri-County Health to further understand how they work as we make our transition. Next slide, please. The overall process will focus on the goals that you see here. As part of the early phase of this, we're building an understanding of the current public health services and programs, meaning what is legally required versus what's optional. And we're not just looking at the Tri-County Health Department. We're also assessing the best practices of other departments within the state and throughout the nation. We're evaluating current and potential funding streams with state, federal, and local funders. And the board will also consider governance options for the new health department, again, consistent with the state statute. During all phases of the process, our communications will seek to, number one, provide updates on all relevant parties about the process. We want to keep you all informed of what we're doing and how we're establishing and developing our new health department. Educate the public and stakeholders about the legal requirements behind our decision making, i.e., why we're making the choices we have made. Encourage stakeholders, including residents, to share input and feedback on the expectations and need of public health in our community. Provide clear details about the services provided by the health department and how they can be assessed, as well as provide specifics about how the county services needs we all met under the new health department, and demonstrate how we're striving to be fiscally responsible and innovative partner in public health. Next slide, please. To help our work, we've created some work streams to apply the methodology. We can see on the slide where each aspect of public health administration will figure into our planning. By the end of Q1, we want to have a conceptual idea of what a single county department would look like, including programs and organizations. In Q2, we'll finalize how to provide programs and services and settle on a governance model. In the third quarter, we'll begin implementation. In the fourth quarter, we'll continue implementation with the goal of going live at the beginning of 2023. We're currently scheduled in-person and virtual engagement options with each stakeholder audience. These will include events like this one, where we actually seek input from our community, community-wide town halls, and others as needed, including ones with businesses that will be affected by this move. We'll also plan to set up listening sessions with relevant audience, so you'll have ample opportunities to provide feedback. We already have a basic web presence that will expand as we flesh out our plans, and the website is arapahogov.com/health. Next slide, please. To summarize how this will work, to sign up to receive updates about the health department progress and all county news, visit the Board of County Commissioners page at arapahogov.com. And now we'll open up to questions from the community. Luke?
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Just to remind everyone, if you want to talk to the Commissioner and you're on the phone, you should dial *3, and that will put you through to an operator. If you are watching online, you can plug a question into the comments box on our Facebook page or on our webpage. As the Commissioner mentioned, that page is arapahogov.com/townhall. And I should also mention that there will be a recording of this available within about 24 hours. So if you want to review the slides again to see the various things we're doing and the steps we're going to take and the timing of everything, you'll be able to see that on our webpage within about 24 hours. I should also mention that we are going to do a county-wide town hall on March 30th in the evening. That will include all 5 commissioners as well as some other officials who will be able to provide sort of an end of Q1 update on where we are with this process. So before we get into the audience questions, I'm going to ask those of you on the phone a polling question. So if you're joining us on the phone, please press the corresponding button as you answer this question on a scale of 1 to 5. how likely are you to recommend living in Arapahoe County to someone else? Press 1 if you're very likely, 2 if you're somewhat likely, 3 if you're neutral, 4 if you're somewhat unlikely, and 5 if you're very unlikely. Again, how likely are you to recommend living in Arapahoe County to someone else? 1 is very likely, 2 is somewhat likely, 3 is neutral, 4 is somewhat unlikely, and 5 is very unlikely. So, with that in mind, let's begin by asking the commissioner. So, Commissioner, I know you have been meeting with Ottawa almost weekly and probably having a number of other meetings with them as well. Can you talk about the kind of things that they are telling the board when they bring these presentations in, and what we've learned so far as we're still pretty early in the process?
Well, thank you for the question, Luke. I think that what's important is that Ottawa has a very experienced staff that have worked directly in the healthcare programs, and the staff is very well versed in current and new procedures and processes that are needed to implement a broad public health service program. We found that there are two concepts that we have to deal with in terms of looking at the development of a new healthcare program for Arapahoe County, and that is governed by number one. There are certain federal, state, and local requirements that a health department has to have to be certified and meet the statutory and policy recommendations and requirements by both the state health department and the federal government. Many people don't realize that the health department has a lot of programs that are reflective because of specific federal legislation. For example, the Women and Infant program, which helps new mothers understand the importance of good health practices for raising infants and providing assistance in helping them, giving the opportunity for their children to thrive. And that's a requirement and funded by the federal government. There are also programs that provide information and training on nutritional programs for all people, and particularly focusing on those in the lower income areas. In addition, there's a public health requirement in terms of monitoring, as we have seen over last year, the impact of a very severe and omnipresent pandemic, and providing recommendations and programs to help address and assist the public in determining how best to deal with the pandemic through providing opportunities to be tested for the coronavirus, as well as providing the recommendations for shots and immunization procedures and places by which you could get treated and get shots to prevent the further spread of the disease. We're basically in using our planning and contract services to begin to analyze all those requirements and needs through the Ottawa group, and they have been giving us recommendations and ideas, and providing us the knowledge and the background to understand the depth and of that responsibility as a county running our own public health program.
Excellent. And for those of you who wanted to do a little more research about Ottawa, it's Ottawa Group, OTOWI Group.com, all one word. If you go to their website, you can see they have quite a bit of experience in public health, and they have the added benefit of being local. They're in Highlands Ranch, so it was a good consultant for us to partner with, and We actually signed them up last summer when we were still looking at the possibility of having a district health department versus a single county health department. And then once Adams made its decision, Ottawa's focus switched to single county efforts. Before we get to another question, let me give you the results of the first polling question. We asked on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to recommend living in the county to someone else? 33% of you said you're very likely. 21% said you're somewhat likely. 29% are neutral. 8% are somewhat unlikely. And 9% are very unlikely. As always, I invite you, particularly if you're a little more on the skeptical side, to send us an email at communicationservices at arapahogov.com. Explain why you feel the way that you do about the county, and maybe there's something we can do to improve it. Just based on past discussions and concerns expressed by residents, a lot of times it seems like things like growth, traffic, cost of living, those are the kind of things that make people a little less likely to recommend Arapahoe, but those are also the things that we are trying to address with all the work we do. So with that, I'm going to once again remind you, if you want to ask a question of the commissioner on the phone, you can dial *3. You can also plug in a question to the comments box on Facebook or on our webpage. And it doesn't have to be about the health department. It could be about other aspects of county business, county operations, and what we're doing this year. The one question online I have here is, given that COVID is declining, are we going to go back to in-person events like this instead of the virtual? And the initial response to that is yes, we are planning for the Q2 events, which will be in May and June. We would really like to do those in person, and we will certainly keep providing information about that. For Commissioner Holen, that tends to be someplace like the Arapahoe Public Library. The locations will be relative to the, in the appropriate districts. So keep tuned to our website and our newsletters and so forth for that. Commissioner, can you talk a little bit about how much you're looking forward to get back to in-person events?
Well, thank you, Luke. I think that we all are looking forward to giving the opportunity to sit down with our constituents and our friends and our family. It's been over 2 years, which we've been really restricted in having face-to-face meetings, and I'm personally looking forward to it. I just had a meeting yesterday with the Colorado Space Coalition at the state capitol, and it was the first time in 2 years that we were able to get together as a group to talk about the positive aspects of aerospace opportunities and industry within the county and within the state. And we had quite a few state representatives and state senators there. So we had an opportunity to explain to them the needs for improved recognition and acknowledgement of the great economic and economic benefit of our strong aerospace economy in Colorado. We're the second largest per capita state that with trained engineers, aerospace engineers, and other highly trained technical people in competition, basically, with California. So we're in a very growth spiral with respect to that. So that was a great opportunity, and we're beginning to have more and more public facing meetings that I think will really help our citizens have an opportunity to really express what their concerns are on a face-to-face basis, and we're all looking forward to that.
And speaking of that, I know aerospace is a very big presence in Arapahoe County, in addition to some parts of the rest of the state. And I know that it's a particular interest to you. What's the latest in aerospace? Is there anything exciting coming up that we should be aware of?
Well, right now, yes, we are Lockheed Martin and Boeing and several of the other major aerospace company are becoming excited about the development of a new heavy lift rocket that will be used for initially our re-exploration the moon. We plan to send in the next 2 years the Orion capsule around the moon, unmanned, to test the life safety aspects of the capsule and the trajectory and technology to be able to get it around the moon and bring it back to Earth, followed by an actual moon manned moon shot. The goal being by 2033 to have the Orion capsule in its project actually go to Mars. So it's very exciting, and the technology and impact of on the aerospace industry in Colorado is quite significant, from small manufacturers to the major aerospace companies like Lockheed Martin.
Absolutely. And of course, when you're talking about space exploration, you're often talking about people who are veterans of our various military bodies. We last year opened up a new veteran service office in Aurora to better serve. It was the second one, I believe, in the county, and it better serves people in that part of the county. Can you talk a little bit about the role you played in that and how it's going so far?
Well, we've worked very hard, me and some of my other colleagues in the commission, to actually put forth open up a new office in Aurora. I mean, Aurora clearly has a majority of the military retirees and veterans in the county, and they have a very active veterans commission. And the fact that Buckley Air Force Base is near Aurora and in my district, we feel very important that we provide those services to veterans, and also provide assistance to our military families. The I think the hope is eventually that we'll increase our staff here in Aurora, and possibly even move the main office here in Aurora, and have our satellite office in the southern part of the county. But it's we've shown a significant increase over the last year in the number of veterans and their families that we've been able to help in providing additional medical programs, medical treatment to those veterans, as well as their disability compensation, pensions, and help of military widows who benefit from the program.
Excellent. Yeah, I know that the reason we wanted to open that one in Aurora is because that part of the county, and of course it touches on Adams County and another county too is escaping me at the moment. It's a very concentrated population of veterans in the Aurora area, so it's great to have that open. Before we get to some other questions, let me ask you our second polling question. Again, if you're on the phone, if you want to ask a question of the commissioner, you can dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator. And for this question, if you're on the phone, again, press the corresponding number on your keypad. The question is, how satisfied have you been with your specific interactions with the Arapahoe County government? Press 1 if you've been very satisfied, 2 if you're somewhat satisfied, 3 if you're neutral or it's not applicable, 4 if you're somewhat dissatisfied, and 5 if you're very dissatisfied. Once again, how satisfied have you been with your interactions with the Arapahoe County government? 1 is very satisfied, 2 somewhat satisfied, 3 is neutral or not applicable, 4 is somewhat dissatisfied, and 5 is very dissatisfied. So we'll give you those answers shortly. Let's see. We have a question from an online viewer here who's asking, we're nearing the end of February. Are you confident that we will be on track to have the health department up and running by the end of the year?
Our current policy is governed by an MOU that we have with the Tri-County Health Department and Douglas and Adams County. We anticipate that we have a year that we'll be working to get the program up and running. And yes, hopefully by 2024 we'll have it fully operational.
It's a law. We have to have a fully functional health department at all times. So as I believe most of you know, we Tri-County Health will continue providing the services they've always provided through this year, or until we have set up the new health department. MOU, as the commissioner referred to, as a memorandum of understanding. It's an agreement between the parties about what each side is willing to provide and able to provide. It is a legally binding document, and so that's what the commissioner was referring to there.
I'm sorry, question. It should be operational by 2023. I said 2024.
Right. Yeah, right. January 1st, 2023. Exactly.
Yeah.
No later than. So again, a follow-up to that is, do we have a sense yet if any of the programs that the health department administers will not be ready to go by the first of the year? And if so, how do we bridge that gap until we can provide them? We may not have a specific answer to this yet, but do you have anything you could offer to that one, Commissioner?
Yeah, what we intend to do is there may be certain functions that we will not be able to accomplish by 2024, and in those specific areas, we may have to contract other entities, whether that's private entities that can provide those specific services. For example, testing of certain testing and surveillance of any kind of disease or virus that may emerge. We may have to rely on either the state Department of Health or some private entities that will provide those functions. So yes, that we may or may not have the capability initially to meet all those specific and mandatory requirements, and in those cases, we will contract those services from outside the county.
Right. So yeah, we do not anticipate having any gap in service for really anything that public health departments are required to offer. Also on that point, the town hall I mentioned a few minutes ago that's going to happen at the end of March should add some more to this, because as I also mentioned, the board is meeting regularly with our consultants, with our stakeholders, and we're just sort of building this brick by brick. So by the end of March, we should be able to provide a lot more concrete answers to these questions. With that in mind, one of the questions that has come up a lot in these discussions is whether the single county health department is going to cost more than the district health department did in terms of cost to taxpayers and to the county. Commissioner, what have we discovered so far about the likely cost differences?
Well, we haven't. We really won't have an answer to that problem until the Ottawa report and study is completed. However, it's likely, in all likelihood, because of the economy of scales that the Tri-County Health Department had. We had 3 counties involved. We could order supplies, whether they're medical or treatment supplies, but also just operational requirements. It's a lot cheaper because we can order more and get a better price. So I think to be reasonable, it's probably going to cost more, but we can't really answer that question until we determine what the scope of our services that we're going to be able to provide that are mandatory, and those that we may or may not be able to provide will all have an impact on the cost and the cost benefit analysis that the Ottawa group will help us determine.
Right, and we should also point out that one of the goals and objectives of this process is to identify ways to innovate, ways to eliminate redundancies, find new ways to provide services, that may be outdated in the way they're currently provided. So all that combined, should help limit the costs over time. And another question on regarding the county's finances is an online questioner is asking, did COVID affect the county's finances? I think the answer is yes. Do you want to expand on that a little bit, Commissioner?
Yes, there have been additional costs. We've obviously had to mobilize our emergency preparedness operation, which cost additional funds. However, we've been very lucky in the sense that both with the implementation and funding that we've received from the first tranche of money that came in through the CARE Act, and also the ARPA funds, which it was the second funding, federal funds that we received, we would be able to mitigate some of those expenses. But clearly, there'll be some revenue that we're going to have to make up. But the good news is, under the ARPA funds, some of our operational costs that were directly related to the COVID pandemic are reimbursable. So we're able to put that money back into our general fund, which will help mitigate some of the costs that we've had to bear. But yes, there likelihood that there will be some loss of revenue that we've experienced. But from a pragmatic standpoint, the county is lucky than other governmental entities, because we're provided funding through property taxes, which were directly impacted by COVID. We did show some loss in our funding for our open space program due to the fact that the loss of revenue from that program was directly tied to direct tax revenues from commercial taxation policies.
Yeah, exactly. And so the way property tax assessment works in Arapahoe County is we assess on every odd year. So last year we assessed the property values, which of course was, a year plus into the pandemic. So as a result, we will probably still be evaluating the full financial impact of COVID through this year and into next year. But as we know, residential prices have continued to rise pretty significantly. Commercial is probably damaged a bit by the COVID pandemic and business shutdowns and things like that. But we're still evaluating that. And then the county still has one of the lowest mill levies in the metro area. And, we have always tried to be as fiscally responsible as possible, even in boom times. So, this, as the commissioner mentioned, the federal aid we've gotten certainly has helped that. We'll keep updating people as needed about the actual effects of it. Before I get to another, go ahead, Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, the other positive aspect is that there have been significant increases in the neighborhood of 12 to 14% in the assessed valuation due to the improvements in the housing market, and that will be reflected in, I guess, 2 years now. So,
right, exactly.
That's a positive thing in terms of our cash flow as a county. I mean, I'm sure the residents aren't happy with that, but that's the way we assess our valuation.
Right, and your house is worth more. So, let me give you the answers to the second poll question. This was, how satisfied have you been with any interactions you've had with the Arapahoe County government? 7% have been very satisfied. 36% are somewhat satisfied. 50% are neutral or it's not applicable. 7% have been somewhat dissatisfied, and nobody on this call has been very dissatisfied. So that's good to hear. We're always looking for suggestions for ways we can improve our services. So again, communications services at arapahoegov.com. If you want to drop an email to us, we would be happy to answer any questions you have about our services or point you to the people who can answer them. If you want to ask the commissioner a question, you can dial *3 on your phone, and that'll put you through to an operator. We have a couple lined up here online. One of our viewers is asking Commissioner, she's saying she's very concerned about the air quality in our metro region, which of course is a byproduct of all the growth we've seen. What is the county doing lately about the air quality situation?
Well, thank you for that question. I'm very much involved and concerned about our air quality. In fact, I serve on the Regional Air Quality Commission, uh, Advisory Commission for the metropolitan area. And yes, your observations and analysis are very significant. We've seen, for a variety of reasons, significant increase in our ozone and other air quality issues over the last couple of years. That's been also hurt by the fact that we've been impacted by forest fires throughout last summer, which has really lowered the air quality. There are several areas within the metropolitan area where we're closing into what is analyzed or determined by the Clean Air Act as unattainment to the standards, to the health standards that we set forth. So it is a serious problem. From a county's perspective, we are very concerned about it. What we've done is right now we're in the process. I'm working closely with our fleet and facilities department to begin to look at and provide an analysis of developing a pilot program to bring on several EV vehicles, electrical vehicles, into our mix, and to determine the cost effectiveness of bringing a larger fleet of electrical vehicles into our fleet, our county fleets. Technology is improving significantly with battery life extension and size and reduction in size, as well as the fact that there is now several opportunities for larger vehicles to be used to utilize electrical capability, and also the aspect of hybrids, which lowers the emission issues relative to those hybrid vehicles. So it's a big concern. We plan in terms of our overall planning in developing code for our construction project. We encourage providing good construction regulations that help improve the energy efficiency of our buildings, both commercial and residential, and that will have a positive impact on reducing the need for energy. And we also are committed to alternative energy programs such as wind and solar, which helps mitigate what I call stationary pollution issues in terms of air quality and the generation of electricity. Also, the fact that we have a program in the county whereby we have federal funds available to go into low-income housing and make those homes more energy efficient, which reduces the need for energy consumption, which has a positive effect on our environment and improves the quality of life for those homeowners. So there are several programs we can do that will be impactful on reducing air pollution. We found that the COVID crisis has had a positive impact in the fact that many people did not go on the highways. The unfortunate thing that those benefits weren't totally realized because of the air pollution created by the forest fires, but our analysis shows a reduction in those areas in spite of that. But I think it's going to require a very comprehensive effort on all of our parts to drive less, improve the quality of our homes by improving the insulation, and seek alternative energy opportunities that will reduce the need for fossil fuel production.
Yeah, in light of events this week across the world, we're definitely going to see a lot more focus on fossil fuel consumption issues. In addition to what the commissioner just mentioned, we also have a weatherization program through our community resources department that will help you, make your home more efficient in terms of keeping the heat in the winter and the cool in the summer. That has environmental impacts as well as just impacts on your wallet. And then I also know that the transportation master plan, which is a long-term vision for transportation in the county, part of that is focused pretty closely on looking at things like electronic vehicles, more electronic vehicle charging stations, carpool lanes, more public transportation, that kind of thing. So all that, like the commissioner said, it takes everybody chipping in to sort of help solve this for all of us. That actually brings me to a related environmental question. Jenna is asking, is there an update on the noise issues around Centennial Airport? I believe you've done some work with that, Commissioner.
Yes, I appreciate it. I serve on the Centennial Airport Authority Board, and incidentally, I'm also a commercial pilot, so I'm cognizant of the issues associated with the increased traffic out at Centennial Airport. We have a noise roundtable program that's funded by the Federal Aviation Administration, and we have regular monthly meetings. And we encourage anybody who has concerns about the airport noise to come to those meetings. You can find out the location and time on our website to express your concerns. We have implemented at the airport a noise monitoring program where we've distributed about 30 noise monitors around the airport boundaries to determine exactly and monitor the exact noise, and we can identify the aircrafts that have exceeded those noise requirements. So we're using that data to determine, with the cooperation of the FAA, to change and develop new departure and arrival procedures that will help mitigates the noise. The other thing that's happening is that as technology improves with our aircraft, we're seeing over the last decade significant reductions, particularly in jet aircraft. The manufacturers are significantly reducing the noise generated from those new generation jets, and also in a future aspect of it. Technology is moving toward providing alternative fuel opportunities for aviation that will reduce the need for fossil fuels and provide alternative fuels for aircraft, as well as in the development, even at Centennial Airport, by Aviation is developing an all-electric aircraft for training purposes. A majority of our noise complaints out at Centennial Airport is directly related to reciprocating engines and small trainer type aircraft. And this new program that by Aviation is seeking the certification of these aircraft, and they have I think orders for almost 60 of those once they can go into full production. That will significantly reduce the noise that people complain about in our training. We have 5 flight schools at Centennial Airport, and those are the ones that generate about 60% of our noise complaints are from those type of aircraft who fly out of the airport. Centennial Airport is the second largest general aviation airport per capita in the country in terms of the numbers of takeoffs and landings. We generate almost $2.5 billion a year in revenues just in the sale of fuel. Nearly 1 billion gallons, or nearly 1 million gallons of jet fuel is sold on a monthly basis out of at the airport. So has a lot of economic benefits for the community, plus um, several thousand airport employees, and then also the generation of businesses and manufacturing facilities that are in and around the airport. Um, so there are benefits, and we just need to work with the community to ensure that we're hearing where those complaints are and how we can work together to find ways of mitigating the noise created by the airport.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize, given that Centennial compared to DIA, for example, is not a big airport, but of its kind, it is one of the bigger and busier airports anywhere. I have a question. What is alternative aviation fuel made of?
Well, I happen to be on the board of the American Aviation Alternative uh, Fuel Organization, and we are looking at um, um, biofuels, for example, which are less polluting and less dependent upon the vagaries of the aviation fuel market. We're also looking at, in a strong sense, the electrically aircraft that are. There are some companies that are developing regional electronically fueled aircraft that can fly several hundred miles as a feeder aircraft um, to to and from major airports to more regional airports. So it's on the horizon. It's not going to happen overnight, but the need for finding an alternative fuel that does not generate as much pollution is important, and also couple that with the need to find new technologies that reduce the noise of transiting aircraft.
Well, certainly an electronic airplane would help remedy that problem. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to ask the commissioner one closing question from an online viewer, and that is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the county over the next couple of years?
Well,
You
that's
can name
a
more than
difficult question. I think that clearly what the issue is going to be is as our constituents continue to express needs for services, i.e., the county health department, the improve. We seek to find improve efficiencies within our administration to provide high quality service at less cost. We're facing some major issues. One of the two major issues that I see facing the county, one continuously is transportation. How do we reduce the dependency upon mobile transportation uh, and and um, and reduce not only congestion but also pollution? And secondly, how do we find money to be able to meet the needs of our deteriorating infrastructure, whether that's in the county jail, the county courthouses, all of which are in need of significant capital improvements, as well as our transportation requirements. So it's going to be basically those two major issues, as far as I'm concerned, to meet the challenges of the next decade.
All right. Well, thank you so much to all of you who joined us tonight. As I mentioned, a recording of this will be available within about 24 hours on our website, arapahogov.com/town hall. We are going to do a countywide health department update virtual town hall on March 30th, featuring all 5 commissioners and some other guests. And we're hoping, fingers crossed, but we're optimistic to have the next conversation with a commissioner face to face in your district. So stay tuned to our website for updates about that. Thank you, Commissioner, and thanks to everyone who joined us tonight.
Thank you.